And I guess we are live. Let me just do a quick check. Hello, everyone. Uh, Welcome to AMN quiz with the Graph Protocol. If you guys can hear me and see us, just drop a quick message in the chat box and we'll pick it up from there. Cool. All right. Yes. So we are live, guys. Hello, everyone. Thanks once again for joining us today, this evening. So this evening we have something special for you guys. We have Pranav Maheshwari with us, who is an engineer with the Graph protocol. So in terms of learning, and making you more aware about the protocols and the blockchains which are out there, we thought of inviting Pranav from the Graph protocol to grace us with his presence and share his insights and knowledge about what the protocol is, what the blockchain is, so that you get to know about what the graph is, right? And that's not just it. This AMA session, every one of you, each and every one of you, has an amazing chance of winning at least 150 INR worth of graph tokens. We will be running a quiz post this AMA session, which will go live at 9 p.m. on our Twitter channel. But that quiz will entirely be based on this AMA session. So do stay till end. Do pay attention so that you can win those free you can win those graph tokens. And without wasting any further time, let's welcome Pranav. Hello, Pranav. Excited to have you here. And would you like to share a brief introduction about yourself
Sure.
before starting?
Hey, Akshay. Really nice to be a part of this AMA. And honestly, this Web3 community in general is awesome. I've been a part of in and off like CoinDCX, talking to Mithun and many of the people around this particular space, and seeing the exponential growth you guys had. I'm really excited to be a part and talking about the graph in general. I'm Pranav. I joined the Web3 in general as a community person and as an engineer back in 2017 when everybody was leaving the ecosystem. I was the one, joining the reverse road, the road not taken. Joined it at that point in stage because I understood the fundamentals of the ecosystem in general and didn't go through speculations or all the noise that actually exists. And today, my actual goal of being a part of this AMA is going to talk about the graph, the project we are doing, but also to make you understand the community or the fundamentals which lie in this Web3 ecosystem, to educate you guys why this particular ecosystem or this new paradigm of internet that we are looking into, that actually lead into tokens and have markets in them, actually evolve, and why do we have them. It's not just about that some crazy guy just launched something on some day and everybody is playing around it, somebody is getting a millionaire, other person is getting broke. It's not like that. It's very, very fundamentally driven. And that's basically my intention, to be a part of the CMA. And at the end of the CMA, I would at least want you guys to be curious that why, this particular field exists. Talk something beyond just, profits and prizes. Talk something which is very fundamentally driven, which is going to be very, very futuristic. Just imagine if I say you today that the internet we are currently working with is totally broken, and the future is going to be decided by all this what we are going to talk about in the Web3 space, which have different commodities and assets of the future. You would be definitely amazed, but you might not know the fundamentals, and this is the fundamentals we today are going to talk about. So really excited, India, to be presenting my bullish case for Web3, my bullish case for Indian development ecosystem and Indian fundamentally, honestly, my fundamental, eco friendliness towards this particular part. So yeah, really excited to be talking about the graph and Web3 in general.
Thanks, Pranav, and that's really exciting. Really looking forward to the session. And then, yes, time and again, even we urge all of our users to to understand the fundamentals, because yes, there is a fundamental running behind all this hype, all behind the entire industry and the movement. and it is really important as well. When you remove all of the noise, you can actually see the fundamentals at play, and you get a better understanding, and you are in a better position to evaluate any protocol at any blockchain. So starting on that note, so what is graph, Pranav? I mean,
Mhm.
what is the graph? How does it work?
Right. So, yeah, so first things first, I am a solutions engineer at Edge Node, which is one of the three, that is one of the three core devs behind the Graph protocol. This is not like the Web2 company where there is, a big company acquiring different companies. It's rather a protocol, ecosystem-based governance where there is Graph protocol, and then there are three core devs and also some community members engaging to make this protocol work. So what the graph protocol is? The graph protocol is a indexing and querying protocol for indexing blockchains and getting the data outside the blockchain to produce to different decentralized application. Very tough. Definitely a lot of jargon oriented. Let's break it down to very minuscule and smaller pieces. I would say what Google does to the Web2 world, the graph does to the Web3 world. Going a little deep from a 5-year old to a 10-year old, if I say, like, all the data that you see right now from Google, like, AMA between Akshay and Pranav, you actually see it from Google searches and everything. How does Google find it out? It queries that data at the back end from all the database, centralized database it has, and produces it in the front end to you, right? That's what Google is doing. It is scraping the data, making it into a database, and then producing it to you guys. The graph does the same thing, but in a decentralized way for the blockchains. What that means is currently all the on-chain interactions. For example, if you're buying a token on Uniswap, if you are using a particular protocol, something like Aave, and you are doing interactions on Ethereum blockchain, you are doing interactions on Polygon blockchains directly with that particular blockchain. As a user, you are emitting data, because if you are even uploading something on Facebook, you are emitting data. Similarly, if you are interacting with the blockchain in the Web3 world, you are emitting data, you are being a point of source in the data, and that data is stored in the blockchain world. To get that data from the blockchain to the decentralized application is what the graph does. It scrapes the Web3 data, makes it into minuscule, awesome GraphQL APIs, and produces it to the front end. That's what the graph does, and that's what our mission is. What is the difference between what Google is doing for the Web2 world and what the graph does for the Web3 world? A single answer is, I would say, decentralization. The Google is indexing Web2 data. Web2 is a very centralized, single sourced, single point of failure, prone to hackability, prone to vulnerability based database, which it is scraping and putting it outside to the different Google searches and everything. The graph does that same thing for the blockchain, which is a decentralized one, in a decentralized fashion. So it scrapes the data and puts it in a decentralized database with different graph network in general, and the different decentralized application which wants to utilize that data uses the API to get that information outside. So that's what the graph in general does.
Right. Yeah, it's interesting that you mentioned while making this comparison between what Google does in the Web2 space and what Graph does in the Web3 space. Now, you have mentioned this couple of times, this term Web3 time and again and again. So, what is Web3? Before we jump in further, like, would you like to just
Yeah.
touch upon, explain what Web3
Awesome.
is?
I would love to, again, I'm a Web3 evangelist in general, being a fanboy of Web3. So again, I love to talk about what Web3 is. It's very revolutionary. It is what interactions in future are going to be defined. And that's what currently in corporations like even Facebook, with changing their name to Meta, have realized. So let's just talk about what it is, and we are going to start with analogy as to what web 1 versus web 2 versus web 3 is, and then dive deeper as to why did we need this and why eventually it got through that. So you can say web 1, the initial part of web was HTTP, open source data, open source protocols. How did it function? You as a person used to, like, it was a very static web in general that used to be there. So The person who was hosting his website was giving the content and he was getting paid. So let's say there is a static website, he was doing all the content work for that particular website and he was getting paid based on the traction and everything. Web 2 was when it got worse. Web 2 was when you gave them content and they earned through the information you shared with them, including your own information, right? So Web 1 was the person who is earning the money is giving the content. Web 2 was some other person, some third party earning the money while you giving them the content and the data. Web 3 is when the user gives the content, user gives the information, and he gets paid. It's the next revolution. It's when if he is using the protocol, if he's using the platform, he has 100% ownership of that particular platform. It is the decentralization in the current structure of communication. Currently there are four or five big companies, Fang, Ultad kind of companies, which are currently ruling the internet ecosystem, which is really bad because eventually everything is going to be on internet. And these COVID times have made it even more out there that it is going to be all online, it is going to be all on the internet. Everything interaction in humankind is going to be defined via internet, right? And if that is actually in control of three or four of these organizations, it is not going to happen, because then they will be the actual kings of the internet or the virtual world, which is the actual world in the future. We need to make it decentralized so that there is no single ownership, there is no abuse of data, there is always the person who is producing the content is the owner of that content and has 100% referencing to that content to own the data and own the content while getting revenue from that content.
Right.
So Web3 in real senses is when Web3 is not about services, SaaS products. It's about protocols. It's about the next wave of internet where there will be no single point of failures, no single single corporations deciding the fate of the users upon it. It would rather be a governance DAO based system where the users are the owners of that platform,
Owners.
and the protocol is what governs the whole platform so that all of them in future will be able to take the next steps to make this a reality. So you can say the Web3 is the democracy to the internet. I know India's biggest democracy, and India is going to love the Web3 world for sure.
Right. So decentralization and transparent governance is more or less like the two major components that's driving this entire Web3 narrative or the movement, we can say, or what we can derive from what you just explained. So how exactly is the graph contributing to this set, to the DeFi ecosystem or to the governance in Web3? How the graph is improving that or contributing to
Right.
that?
That's a really awesome question, and I would love to answer that. And again, the graph as a product or as a protocol, to be honest, was one of the first people in this Web3 space to code the word Web3, and uh, amplify the education around it, the need around it. If you see, if you go on the graph YouTube page, you will be able to see Yaniv's talk on the graph day, talking about the Web 2 versus the Web 3 and why Web 3 is very, very important. We had the Web 2, they were awesome. There were a lot of things that were made and accomplished in that particular moment. But now we need the Web 3. And why do we need that? It was discussed and defined back in 2018 or 19 when nobody was actually talking about this space. So we are huge and big promoters of Web 3, and we have decided and made that happen in our particular protocol or governance system or the ecosystem that the graph runs on, because honestly actions speak louder than words, and we have been big believers of decentralization in Web3, and we have made that happen. How we have made that happen? If there is a change, somebody has so actually the graph was initially a company which was eventually became a protocol, and it was associated with Node, which was the initial team behind the graph. Then there was another team There was another team known as Streaming Fast, which joined the force to make decentralized indexing and querying a reality. And then Figment also came along. Then there are a lot of indexers, curators, and delegators also a part of the graph ecosystem in general. So you can say the graph is the ecosystem rather than a company structure. And that's what the first phase of making decentralization and Web3 a reality would be. Secondly, you can say there are graph grants which the graph gives to different stakeholders. We are soon going to make it a retrospective funding, public good funding way. So eventually we fund different people trying to make things in general for Web3. And maybe it can be producing content, maybe it can be like making educational stuff, or doing something which is app based or code based, which actually progresses the Web3 agenda in general. So that is also what is known as the graph grants makes that happen. And third, and the most important thing, whatever changes that happen in the graph protocol, which is the indexing and querying protocol, don't happen via a code, a developer making changes on his laptop and then pushing it to the to GitHub to make that happen. It's not like that. It's rather currently a graph council which sits and decides on the protocol. In the council there is a perspective of the core devs, there is a perspective of indexers, there is a perspective of curators, and there is perspective of the ecosystem. They actually currently vote on different governance proposals. They come out with decisions with yes or no. You can see them on the graph forum. And then a yes or no is decided, and eventually it is made to work. So that's how actually the governance should be for any protocol. Today you have Facebook, you are uploading all your stuff on Facebook, and they come, Mark Zuckerberg just comes on one day and says, oh, nothing like Facebook and Meta only. This is not something that we actually vouch for. Then they are actually deciding our fate. This is not what we want. Today YouTube, there are hundreds and thousands of YouTubers in India currently producing lots and lots of content. Tomorrow YouTube comes and says, you know what, all the money that you are earning through YouTube, it's zero, nada, nothing you will get. It is on their fate to decide what users thinks. That's not what the future of internet has to be, because the future is only internet. I would say it is all based out of internet, with even metaverses and everything coming. Everything we are doing physical will all happen on the internet. And if we want to make it a space where this can happen, where individually or honestly we can think of having a lives on the internet, evolving through that particular phase, we cannot let decentralized forces decide the future. And we need the governance like what the graph in general has done with council and different governance proposals and perspective to make that happen. So yeah, the graph, to answer your question, the graph is a big promoter of Web3 and the processes, governances, and related things that are involved there. And we ourselves have implemented it to showcase, how progressive decentralization and Web3 has to progress.
So it's interesting, you mentioned a couple of things around, the metaverses and decentralized ecosystems, governance, how you guys are working on it. Now, at the beginning of the conversation, we talked about how the fundamentals are there and they are important, and they play a part. Even if you are not able to look at it because of all the noise, it is still there and they are playing its part. Now, one of the key things that people tend to miss out, or they underestimate, is when we talk about decentralization or decentralized ecosystem, it's not winner take it all. Like, there is not going to be just one protocol or one blockchain that's going to win it, right? It's everyone working together, because that's how it stays decentralized. If Because at the end of the day there is one winner that takes it all, it beats the purpose. There is no decentralization there as well. It's just one centralized decentralized network which has won, you can say, right? So why I'm asking or mentioning this is, the question that I'm trying to ask is, to support this decentralized movement and this ecosystem, what all networks are there currently which the graph supports?
Awesome. This is again an awesome question. And to answer that in full forces, I would say the graph believes in the moment of what we call as the internet of blockchains, the multi-blockchain future. I actually tweeted about it some days back, that why Web3 needs multi-blockchain, why the Web3 world is all multi-blockchain. It's not just one chain that actually keeps it all. And that's what the graph actually believes in. We believe in the force of internet of blockchains. We believe that future is not just one chain ruling it all, and we making changes and hustling tussling to make that happen, but rather lots of chains together actually deciding how the Web3 has to progress, and foresee how it works. Because you can say, for example, Ethereum is great. Ethereum was the first to launch this concept of decentralized application, a decentralized layer on which decentralized applications could be built. But it is just one concept of how system design of decentralized applications or decentralized future should look like. Then there is Solana, which has another what we call as the another system design to make that happen. Then there is Near, which is another system design, another approach in making the same decentralized force, the same point of view, a reality. And that's what the graph believes in. We believe that whatever system design makes the Web3 more realistic and more closer to internet, the better it is. For example, there are decentralized finance, applications which require lots and lots of security. For them, we need 100% lot of decentralization with a particular system design. Maybe for that, Ethereum is great. Then there is social tokens, where you can interact with social media, create a future of social media on the internet. For that, maybe a layer 2 application or maybe a commit chain like Polygon is great. For something maybe like SC Infinity, a game, a side chain that they have created is great. For anything around, let's say, metaverses, Solana is great. We never know that. Maybe gaming, Solana is great, or whatever brings the force to reality. So we are not that kind of people which believe like one chain takes it all, but we rather believe that it is a multi-blockchain future, and we have to support in make a support in that particular sense. And for that, the graphs hosted service, which in the we are going to talk about in the future, the graphs hosted service currently supports 22 chains, which are like for example, we support Ethereum, we support all most of the EVM chains like Polygon, Fuse, XDAI, and all have you are supported on Phantom, for example, are supported on the graphs hosted service. And also we have started with streaming fast being a core dev, we have started this non EVM compatible chains also supported on the by the graph node, and also supported on the hosted service. And soon we are going to launch support for Solana as well. So as of now, people can use the graph to index 22 EVM chains plus Near, and in the future also Solana.
That's a lot. That's a lot, and that's really great. And hope to see more and more chains getting added to the ecosystem going forward. So yeah, you mentioned about graph hosted services. So what was it? I mean, what is it? If you can just
Right.
explain.
So I would like give you a very very broad answer to this. Then there is the graph as a protocol, and as I told you, we believe in progressive decentralization. It should not be like you launch a white paper on one day, and after 3 years you just vanish for 3 years, and after 3 years you have a decentralized product. That's not how it works. Decentralization cannot be actually pertained through this particular approach. It has to be very natural, and that's why you people call Ethereum as an ecosystem and not a service, because it has naturally progressed to be decentralized with lots of people running nodes and staking their amounts to make this force a reality. So like coming back to your question, the graph also believes in the process of progressive decentralization. So back in time when Yaniv and again the awesome co-founders of the graph sat to decide on this particular thing, what we launched as the first product market fit, and going out there in the markets to actually support decentralized application, was the graphs hosted service, which is a single indexer indexing all the blockchains, all the decentralized applications, to give them data. So the graphs hosted service is a single indexer indexing all the blockchains, all the decentralized, applications and their subgraphs to get the information out. And currently, most of the applications in the ecosystem, including Uniswap, Foundation, Decentraland, use the graph for that, right? And we have eventually moved forward, and because we believe in the big believers of Web3 decentralization, and no single point of failure and all that, we have progressed and moved to the graph network as well. The hosted service was single indexer. The graph in network, not going too much technical, is the decentralized, you know decentralized protocol of the same graphs hosted service. The graphs hosted service used to index different blockchains and different applications to give them information. The graphs network does the same, currently only supported on Ethereum, but currently only supports the Ethereum network, but index in the future, indexes different blockchains, and currently is indexing different decentralized applications to give them data. There was a wave one, which was launched back in May by the graph ecosystem, and 10 dApps actually moved from the hosted service to the decentralized application, namely Pull Together, Live Peer, and all these, which currently, instead of getting information from the hosted service for their data, are actually on the graph network to get the information and get information and use the APIs to make their application, decentralized application, work. So the hosted service was the first product, a little, you can call it a SaaS way of getting information, and the graph network is the decentralized way of getting information and then producing it to the application to make their application a real decentralized application. A decentralized application is not decentralized if it uses Ethereum and everything else is centralized. It is hosted on AWS and uses the token formula to get rich. It is nothing related to that. That's why we are talking about the
Right.
fundamentals here. If a decentralized application wants to call it a D app, it has to use the Web3 stack. It has to use the graph to get the information outside the blockchain to their application in a decentralized format. So yeah, to just answer your
Right.
question in that way.
Interesting. So it seems like that, quite there's quite a lot of development which is happening, and you guys are progressing with quite some significant pace with all the development which is happening. You talked about grants, you talked about, how you're supporting the developers, the content creators, and the ecosystem in general. So how's the journey has been so far? How's the journey has been so far, and what's the road ahead look like?
Very, I would say, you're making me nostalgic, to be honest. But I would say when everybody is only a part of noise, and you are the person who believes, you are the team who believes in the fundamentals, it's a tough road, but it's a road which has to be taken to make things progress into the realistic formats. It is very easy to cheat in exams and pass, but you won't get any knowledge. But it is very hard to do it the right way, to get things work upon, so that eventually, when you're building a bridge in the future as a civil engineer, you don't make the collapses happen, because you know the nuances of how that industry works. So when, yeah, this was a conversation I had back when I was getting hired by the graph. I had a conversation with Yaniv, and he told me we were actually trying to use Ethereum ecosystem, Ethereum as a network, to build a decentralized application. And we found out that you cannot currently use Ethereum with what we call as, make it decentralized application. You have to make your own indexer to get the information. You have to get your own oracle to get the information inside the blockchain. You have to build your own indexer to store that information of the blockchain in the indexer, so that so that your application can use it. So we as a team thought that Ethereum is great, but it lacks infrastructure. You can say something like, there is a city, and the city is great, just like Ethereum, but it does not have the roadways. It does not have the water pipelines. It has good citizens. It has awesome community and people, but it lacks roads. It lacks waterworks. And that's what the graph did for Ethereum. right? The graph provided the waterworks, the infrastructure actually required for a decentralized application, building there to make it happen. To make it more analogous, you can say Ethereum is a city and the graph is the waterworks or the roadways which are required for a city. For, let's say, if you're building a cafe there, a cafe should be a decentralized application. You will always use the waterworks or the roadways. If there are no roadways, there are no waterworks, there'll be no city, right? So that's what the analogy I would like to make. If you are building a DeFi, if you're building anything in DeFi, if you're building a lending borrowing system, if you're building an options protocol in the Ethereum ecosystem, if you're building NFT marketplace, it's something booming right now in the ecosystem. If you're building a metaverse, if you're building a social token, you have to use the graph to get the information from the blockchain to the outside world. If you're building a cafe, if you're building, uh, let's say a park, you always have to use the road for the city to commute, and that's what the graph does. The graph actually sat down and thought about the Ethereum and the nuances to make it a success, to make Web3 a success, to be honest. And for that, we needed the infrastructure for a decentralized application which comes on the Web3 stack to have these infrastructure ready. And that's what the graph actually did. So as I told you, right, that's what we actually decided first, and then launched our MVP with hosted service. Then we got lots and lots of awesome support from the Web3 community. Web3 is very inclusive community. When I was joining the Web3 community, I just messaged Vitalik about my situation there, and he was like very responsive with a very detailed answer that you should or you should not consider being a part of it. So Web3 is a very inclusive community. If you're doing something great, which is required to make this agenda a success, you will be loved and supported. And that's what the graph was actually, supported by the Web3 people. All the decentralized applications, all the dApps that were currently on Ethereum sat down with us, were very supported. They understood our vision and, made sure we worked with them to make it a reality, to get the information from the graph node to the decentralized application. So yeah, this was actually the thing. We sat down, made sure we needed the infrastructure to get Ethereum worked, launched the hosted service, made sure it is working properly, everything is awesome, made an awesome community, awesome ecosystem over that particular time. And while we were working on the graph network, and eventually in May launched, in June launched the graph network to make decentralized indexing and querying a reality for different decentralized application wanting to be really decentralized.
Wow, that's really amazing, Pranav. As in, like, there's a lot of insights, and like to all of you who are, who are watching this session, like now you can imagine there's a lot more behind any protocol, behind any blockchain that goes into the picture than just some short movements in maybe in the markets, right? The all that data querying, say for example, since we are talking about the graph, right? So the data querying and working with making sure even a very simple task of making your protocol compatible with other blockchains so that it can interact with it, it can take months of development to happen, right? Correct me if I'm wrong, Pranav, right?
Yeah,
So all that work goes behind the scenes to make all of this reality, and all the DeFi applications, the data that you see, be it the price data, so say for example on Uniswap, and I guess Uniswap is using a protocol, right? Yeah,
yeah,
so all of that data, it has been indexed by graph. So that
right,
drives the fundamental value of the network, which we call as the network effect when we have to evaluate a protocol. So really
right.
interesting
Also,
insight.
just to add a small part in that, if you are a Web2 developer and you didn't have the Rust APIs, you didn't have the GraphQL APIs, and you had to build that from the scratch, you would have left development. Okay, that's what Ethereum was, or that's what the blockchains were before the graph as an indexer came into surface. So yeah, it's an essential part of making a decentralized application, and that was our mission to making it work. Also, like, I forgot one part of your question, which was what is the future hold for the graph. I would like to, again, I'm really sorry I give really big answers, but that's how bullish
No,
I
that's
am. The
completely.
longer I speak, the longer I'm bullish on the Web3 ecosystem, and the longer I want my fellow Indians to be a part of the Web3 community. So just to go through, like, a lot has been done by the graph. And as I told you, like, the graph is a work in progress all the time. Web3 keeps building, we keep shipping, and that's what the what's best about Web3. What corporations are able to achieve in 10 years, the Web3 protocols, the Web3 community achieves in, let's say, months. And that's, being a part of Web3, you can say, okay, it's a 24-hour running ecosystem where everybody from the beginning is electrified with lots and lots of energy drinks all the time, working and shipping products to making it a reality. So yes, we have shipped a lot, but as an ecosystem, what is in the near future, you can say, we want to index all the non-EVM compatible blockchains, make the graph ecosystem, the graph protocol in general, to index all the blockchains to get a decentralized application to use the graph, and spread awareness. Maybe be a partner with CoinDCX Learn, which is again an awesome initiative that you guys have led to making education awesome thing for Web3 people, not just about crypto and noise, but talk about the fundamentals. So just to answer to that, one part is definitely adding different chains in the graph, EVM, non-EVM. Secondly, improve the performance of graph node, and index blockchain in a very frequent and awesome manner, making it highly scalable. Even though it is now scalable, we want to even magnify the performance over there. Thirdly, spread this information of Web3 and the need for making it the future of internet and interactions with education, with different platforms, including maybe the CoinDCX Learn, while we work together in the future. That's one of them. And fourth, making sure the graph network is, as I told you, it is the first time somebody is indexing data in a decentralized fashion. There are different people in their particular thing. There are indexers, there are curators, there are delegators, there are fishermen, there are different participants in the network. And as we are doing it for the first time, we had two researchers, and now a big team of researchers with data scientists, cryptographers, and many brilliant minds working to make the network very sustainable for everybody participating in the network. So actually, the network, we are very focused on the network to get decentralized application moving towards the graph network, understanding the importance of the decentralized indexing and querying, and eventually get all the blockchains on the network and every decentralized application eventually supported by the graph network. So that's you can say is our aggressive future of making decentralized application a true decentralized application, you can say.
And that sounds like a truly beautiful future. And yes, we all are in the same boat. And yes, keeping learning, emphasizing on learning and education as a primary tool for anyone to interact and get involved with the ecosystem is what we all emphasize, and will definitely be working towards that, towards making three Web3 and inclusive, more inclusive than what it is today, and a reality and a success. So with that being said, before we wrap it up like with our last question, uh, which is what exclusive is happening for the Indian community? Anything exclusive you guys are planning for the Indian region?
You want to mean to give you some spoilers, huh?
Right.
Why not?
Yes.
Being a person from Indian origin, I can tell you the country has huge potential in terms of developing stuff. Most of the people in the Silicon Valley actually running the internet right now, from Google to Amazon to all these big awesome people, are eventually and supported by the Indian development ecosystem. And why there is no way the graph can you know eventually leave behind the Indian development ecosystem and the community. So as I told you, we are eventually going to be working very closely with all the people who are wanting to encourage the knowledge of Web3 in Indians getting Web2 developers in India becoming the Web3 superstars, telling them, why we need this, awesome future, why it is foreseeable. It's not just about awesome packages that you get in the Web3 space. I know it is much higher here, but it's not just about that. It is about making them envision why they need to, switch their stacks, switch their gears, and move towards the Web3 stack, because Web3 needs them. Currently, in 100 jobs posted, there are 50 people applying, while in Web2, there are 10,000 people applying for 10 jobs or something like that. And that's the difference, right? That's where we actually come in. We have launched many educational programs for people, wanting to learn and be a part of the Web3 space. Not just developers. You can be an ecosystem person, you can be a community person. You just have to understand and realize the value of Web3. And the Graph would love to support you with grants on whatever vision you have as a part of the community. You want to have meetups in India to, just make a small community of people talking about Web3. We are there to support you. If you have anything in mind, just talking about Web3 in your different postcards, just spreading education, we are there for you. We support anything which supports the fundamentals. We don't like to talk about, or just speculate on different tokens. There are some people who do that in India and Indian ecosystem, in their decentralized whatever protocol, maybe not decentralized, or whatever protocol they are building. And we are not, we are not supportive of that. In the whole conversation we had, we never talked about, the underlying asset that the Graph supports. And that's what the fundamentals we are sitting on. We believe asset is great, and eventually everything, has to run on money and everything. But if it is not supported by an underlying asset, if a gold bond is not supported by gold, then the bond is worth nothing. Eventually there might be some hype in the beginning, but eventually it will not be to be rejected, right? So it's very important in these, X times, all time high times, where everybody is saying, oh, crypto is great, Bitcoin is great, and all that because of how rich they got. It's very tough to actually realize and understand, pinpoint the fundamentals of why a particular thing can be great. As Warren Buffett said, in bull markets, everybody is intelligent. In the bear markets, you eventually find out who was. So
Right.
just to cater to that, we are actually big promoters of fundamentals of why Web3 exists, why there is this, or awesome community, and why a person as a developer, as an ecosystem person, should be involved. And we are very bullish on the Indian region, to be specific, talking about Web3, because we believe with with the revolution of internet in India, it is booming like anything. And we want to support you guys. So if you want to be a part of this particular space, all you have to do, Google things. The Graph has developed a lot of content to get you started in Web3, and we are in no time doing it even more with CoinDC excellent partnerships and everything. We are doing it even more, right? We have partnered with even Devfolio in different hackathons. If you're a developer, you can come, you can get some sponsorships, you can build your decentralized application and eventually be great. There is a team known as Instadap, which was a team which was built out of a hackathon, and eventually were a big company supported by Nawal Ravikant and everything. So to be honest, for me, an Indian religion, I believe we are doing enough to get you even more educated in the Web3 space, and we want to do even more. So all you have to do is be a part of the Graph Discord, interact with different stuff. Try to follow the Web3 content that is produced every time by the Graph. There is a DevRel known as Nadar Dabit. He produces awesome content on Web3 in general, to educate you guys. I know there is less content and tutorial than the Web2 space, but that does not should stop you to becoming a Web3 developer or a ecosystem person. All you have to do is just consume content. You're producing it, and you should be out there. And eventually, as I told you, if you have any problems, You can DM me always on Twitter with whatever information you need. We are always there as a graph, as a protocol, as a believer of Web3, so to support you guys, because we do remember, there was some person who eventually got me through the lines from the Web2 to Web3, and now I'm so happy. And we want to share that with you guys to eventually make Web3 even more greater than it is today.
Definitely, definitely, Pranav, and that's what all we are aiming and gunning for. And yes, since learning is the right tool, and we all emphasize for that, even at CoinDCX, definitely we will, collaborate and work together to bring more learning material on the graph through our DCX Learn platform and another other initiatives. And as of now, for today, just to kickstart things, since it's a festive season, on a lighter note and on a very easier note, we have, as I mentioned at the beginning of this session, we have for all of you who are, who have joined this AMA session and is watching us, a quiz coming up at 9 p.m. today, which will go live on our Twitter and Instagram channel. All you have to do is just, follow up this AMA thoroughly. The quiz will be based on this AMA session, and 2,500 winners will stand a chance to win up to 150 INR worth of graph tokens. So a
Well,
fun learning activity to start with, but definitely we will move on to more serious learning and earning stuff on our DCX Learn website with the graph.
sure.
So
We believe in the concept of learn and earn, and we are big believers in that. With maybe CoinDCX Learn to be the first space, also producing a rabbit hole. Also, just to give a disclaimer, right? I told you to DM me on my Twitter handle if you have any issues. You know, don't DM me for all the answers of AMA. Okay, I'm not gonna give you that. I'm also gonna participate in the AMA to win the awesome goodies that the CoinDCX is offering.
sure, sure, sure. Definitely, definitely. And now, with that note, we will open the chat box for our audience. So, you guys can feel free to drop in any question that you may have, you want to ask Pranav around the graph protocol. And Pranav is here with us today to answer any question that you have. So, please feel free to use this opportunity, guys, to get to know the project that you interact with, or you are trying to learn more about it. So do take this opportunity and shoot us your question around the graph protocol, guys. Okay, so we have questions started coming in, and the first question that has come in is from Chinmay Patil. Pranav, can you hear me?
Hello.
Yeah, Pranav, can you hear me?
Yeah. I just saw his question, though I didn't, there was a lag, but maybe some internet
Sure,
connections,
sure, no
right?
issues,
But
no
yeah,
issues.
but the question was like, what's the difference between the graph and Polygon?
Right.
Quick disclaimer: I used to work for Polygon before I started working for the graph, but both of them are a part of the Ethereum ecosystem. The graph indexes Ethereum blockchain, and Polygon scales Ethereum blockchain. One gets information outside the Ethereum blockchain, and the other one actually makes Ethereum more scalable. Currently, if you have to do a transaction on Ethereum, it takes about you know $100 or something like this, which is very nightmarish. And with Polygon, it has reduced. So that's what Polygon does. What the graph does is, if you want to make a decentralized application, for example, info.uniswap page, all the on-chain data that is being produced is getting outside in the info.uniswap page using the graph protocol and the APIs that the graph actually gives you access to. Do you want me to speak in Hindi? There are some, like, I know how to, it might not sound like, but I know Hindi and all. So if you want anything in Hindi, please let me know. I can give you a small brief thing about it.
Yeah, definitely, Pranav, whatever you're comfortable with. So definitely
Sure.
Hindi, English, we can pick up anything.
Yeah.
So yeah, there are a couple of other questions as well. Uh, Balveer Rajput is asking how you started your Web3 journey.
I told you. For me, it was like, temptation and desperation, to be honest. I was a Web2 developer with a big crowd in India. There were like 10,000 people like me in a particular company I used to work for, and all of us used to do development in Web 2 space, which was really horrifying for me because I was there for impact. I was born for impact, right? Nobody is born to do what it's like nobody is born to do like 9 to 5 office work,
Just
not
the
to just
regular
start
work.
that.
Yeah.
So like, just to be honest, for me, it was about trying to do something which is fundamentally driven and strong, but is you can say, but is much wider in scope and is much more different, much more different than what the crowd is doing. It's very easy to find crowd in India, and I wanted to do something different and create, let's say, 0.00001% impact to the world, and that would be like my mission to the world. So just to start this impact theory of mine, I started just scribbling and scrolling through internet to find stuff. I landed into machine learning, found out to be very math intensive, and you can definitely see through my thing that definitely not a thing that I can be not a prodigy, so you cannot imagine me doing that. So eventually got into blockchain, went through a hackathon, disturbed 1,000 people in the Web3 space that I am just struggling to do something and wanted to make a change. And all of them very, very, very inclusive and answerable. I just answered, just went on Twitter, told DM people that, hey, this is me. I know some of web development and whatnot. I want to get started. And people were very, very, welcoming. The real people in the Web3 space. There is a duplicate and a real one. So you have to find the real decentralized believers and you have to just DM them. That was my work, and eventually it got started, and now rest is history. I worked with Polygon, I worked with the graph, and I can say I am fulfilled every night whenever after work I go to my bed, because it's like, okay, little by little we are creating impact, and eventually we are going to change the way human species are actually interacting. So yeah, that was my journey into Web3, and now it's even more rewarding with money, so really happy.
That's an interesting story, Pranav. Thanks for sharing us. So the next one that we have is from Broke Age. Tell us about mining in Web 3.0. So I
uh,
believe by mining, the guy is trying to refer to either proof of work or proof of stake.
yeah,
Since you mentioned, Pranav, about the validator, delegator, and
right,
all the contribute the ways which are there to be a part of the ecosystem and contributor. So yeah, how
right,
does it work? In Web3 space.
right. I
What
can
does
give you
delegator mean? What does it mean? What is a delegator?
right,
Like in
right.
general.
This will take, let's say, 2 minutes, but I really want to educate you guys. I would love, after this, after this particular talk, to not just be evangelized as to, he was speaking with so much of bumpiness. Just go ahead and scroll through web, and you would get started. That would be your day to getting started. So just want to encourage you guys, but just to answer your question, there is a thing known as proof of stake, which is a consensus protocol. Then there is proof of work. Bitcoin runs on proof of work, in that you can use a machine to get Bitcoin and all these things. Similarly, in proof of stake, what you have to do is delegate your tokens. Let's say you are staking on Ethereum. Eventually, Ethereum is going to be a proof of stake network. So what you have to do is stake your 32 or more Ethereum inside the network, and eventually you will be getting rewards for that, because you are a participant in the network to making it run. Currently, in the Google or the Amazon world, what happens is there are centralized servers doing that. What in a decentralized world people do is delegate or run machines, and that's what is the way the network works. So just to give you a brief of that, what the graph is you can say it is a different network in which there is indexer who is actually running a machine and indexing different blockchains, right? He has to do a allocation of 100k grt into the network to make it run. Then there are delegators, grt delegators, who can delegate on these indexers and just passively earn income. And then there are curators who are a part of ecosystem or a community who have grt. They just curate on a particular subgraph and tell the indexer that this is a subgraph they should index. So you can say this is how the graphs network works. Definitely I'm not sure, if I made it clear to you guys, but can be a good starting point for you guys to actually explore and understand if Amazon can work on servers, Ethereum or Bitcoin can actually work through different people. Not centralized servers, but rather different people with proof of work or proof of stake to eventually make the infrastructure a ownership based protocol.
Great, great. That's great. So, last but not the least, continuing on the same lines only, right? You talked about developers and how they can contribute, how they get to be a part of, and there are grants available for even the content creators and everybody. And it's not I mean it's not just that. If you want to participate, you can participate as a validator or as a delegator as well, right? So one last I mean this is the last question we can wrap it up with, which is by Gaurav Gyan Chandani, and it's for like how can a non-engineer get started with Web 3.0? Being a marketeer, what kind of roles are available in Web 3.0? Which is a very fair question to ask. Like Web 3,
Yeah,
it's easy to get swayed with all the developments and all the technical the fancy jargons and the developments that take place. But yeah, it is going to take a balance of both developers and
yeah.
marketeers as well. So what kind of roles they can take if you're coming from a non-development background?
Sure, sure. This is again a very valid question, and I might have answered some parts and peaks of it while I was, giving you an answer about the graph and the Indian ecosystem. But to be honest, the graph the web3 ecosystem is not just about developers developing stuff and making it happen. It's not just about that. There are lots and lots of people. There are community managers, there are ecosystem people, there are just investors, and all these people eventually turn up to make a web3 a success. It is marketeers, business people, analytics guys, data science people, developers, definitely protocol, researchers, to actually make this work. So it's not just about getting a job in Web3, but firstly understand what Web3 here stands for. If you're not bullish for Web3, you will not be able to work 120 hours a day. What Web3 industry standards are, and actually you can relate to it while I talk.
I can
While I
vouch
talk.
for it, Vince, for sure.
so so so
Can
so
vouch
so
for
to
it.
answer that, if you want to be a part of the Web3 community, get a job. All you have to do is learn the fundamentals of what Web3 stands for. Choose a protocol which eventually has a roadmap and has good team which eventually believes in decentralization, and get your job as per your profile, or as per your knowledge and education. The Web3 is not about getting degrees. It's not nothing like that. Founder of Ethereum, Vitalik Buterin, college dropout. Most of the people in Web3 are junkies, or what we call as hippies, sitting in their shorts and talking about changing the world. So it's a very informal community, a very friendly ecosystem. All you have to do is understand the basics, the fundamentals, which remain the same for everybody. If you're a developer, a community person, anybody, marketeer, all you have to do is just go out there and evaluate your skills. If you think you are a people's person, you can be a developer relations person kind of person. You can be an ecosystem manager. You can, if you can understand, evaluate different proposals, you can be a community manager for a grants giving DAO or something. If you think you can uh, do some marketing, you can get the product out there to the Web2 world, get the developers from the Web2 to the Web3 to the marketing perspectives. Just get a job in the marketing perspectives over there. If you think you can think along in the economics and match with that, you can become a protocol researcher. Everything I would say is highly paid, because I am one of on the payroll. So I can tell you it's very rewarding. But all you have to do is swim through all the noise and get through the fundamentals, so that we can together build the Web3. To be honest, I always say this song while I'm making this happen, that asli blockchain se mila hai Hindustan ko. This is my motive to make this work.
Well, that's really cool, Pranav, and thanks a lot for sharing all these wonderful insights with us. definitely looking forward to to have another conversation with you. This was really a lovely conversation. A lot of things that we touched upon: decentralization, the way you can contribute, progress that we are making, the progress you guys are making, and we are making as a Web3 ecosystem in general and whole. So thanks a lot again, once again, Pranav, for your time. And uh, just before we wrap it up, we have a couple of things to share with our audience here. So we will soon be, coming up with a white paper review activity for all of you, blog writers, non-developer people who are looking to contribute to Web 3.0 ecosystem, wherein all you have to do is just go through the white paper of Graph, and you will have to share a review, a one-pager review of what you feel or your opinion or your summary of that particular white paper is. And we'll pick the top 20 best white papers from that. So, all the non developers, this is your chance to start contributing, become a part of Web 3.0. We will roll out the details of this activity by Sunday. And in the next 2 hours, stay tuned for the quiz activity, which is ongoing. It's a great chance for all of you to win graph tokens. So, on that note, we will wrap up this session. Thank you, Pranav. Thank you for your time. And to all of you who joined us today, have a great weekend, guys, and have a lovely evening. Thank you. Take care. Bye bye.
Thank you, guys. Bye.